What a privilege. We are thankful that a small group of us were able to gather together here today at the United States Air Force Academy. Just for all of you out there, it is a beautiful sunny day, approximately 75 degrees, and the fall colors are painting the mountains up very well. Most importantly, we are thankful for the opportunity to engage some living glider history in person. Given these times, this is just a very special treat and delight. Mr. and Mrs. Overman, please roll the tape.
Curtis R. Cameron was born on 11 January 1924 in Nowata, Oklahoma. He enlisted on 3 February 1943 and went into the Army Air Corps. After basic training, he went through glider mechanic school at Shepherd Field. Here, he learned how to splice cables, dope fabric, and work with the soft wood that made up the wings of the CG-4A glider. The fuselage and tail consisted of nothing but steel tubing covered with airplane fabric. He had to know how to fix any part that might break on the glider. Curtis was 18 years old when he was assigned to the 95th Troop Carrier Squadron, 440th Troop Carrier Group, 50th Troop Carrier Wing. On 11 March 1944, he was transferred with his group to the European Theater and was stationed at Fulbeck, England. Since the 440th did not tow gliders in the D-Day operation, Curtis was sent to another group in preparation for the Normandy invasion. On June 6, he was up all night loading gliders. 292 CG-4A gliders were flown in the Normandy operation, codenamed Overlord. After D-Day, 13 gliders were snatched out of the landing zones, and Curtis and other engineers from his squadron helped to repair and return these gliders to England. This was accomplished between 23 and 25 June 1944 by locating gliders that were in flyable condition on the Cherbourg Peninsula. Curtis said his squadron was also responsible for setting up the snatch process. They would set up the nylon tow line, which was suspended between two 12-foot tall vertical poles 20 feet apart. Curtis enjoyed watching the C-47s make the snatch. The plane had a hook on the belly and would sweep down to approximately 20 to 25 feet from the ground, with the hook trailing behind a 3/8-inch diameter steel cable that played out from a revolving drum. The hook snagged the nylon tow line, and the glider went from a dead standstill on the ground to 120 miles per hour in 7 seconds, with a force of approximately 7/10 of a G. The winch kept the G-forces down and the tow rope from breaking. Curtis co-piloted many of the gliders snatched from the fields. Curtis said this work went on for each glider combat mission. In some cases, such as Holland, they were able to get the C-47s to land in fields where they could hook up the repaired glider in a normal tow takeoff position. Unfortunately, he and many of the engineers lost a good amount of their hearing because they were hooking up the tow line to C-47s with their engines running. The work that Curtis did was crucial for the last major airborne operation of the war, codenamed Varsity, the invasion of Germany. This was the largest single-day lift of the war, lifting 2 entire divisions, the American 17th Airborne and the British 6th. Without the returned gliders from other missions, this operation would not have been possible. His group received the Presidential Unit Citation, and his campaigns included Italy, Normandy, southern France, Holland, and Germany. Curtis returned to the United States on October 12, 1945.
Well, I'm here now sitting in the room with Curtis. We just got done having we had a wonderful lunch, and the applause from 4,000 cadets plus all the former classes that are here for reunions was just pretty breathtaking. The spirit in the room, it was just truly patriotic. The amount of appreciation that was shown by the staff and just by all present. It was just a real surreal moment. Sir, this has been it's a big day for you today. It's been we've just had a wonderful time engaging you, and
been the most best program I've ever been to for quite a while. Yeah. So, and to have 4,000 kids cheering for you, that is really a plus. I'm telling you.
Well, they're definitely cheering for your service, and obviously there's a lot of other folks that are not with us that have also served just as well. And now, hopefully, we're there's for the people listening and for the people of the future that we're recording this for, we can hear from you directly. You started this journey, 18 years old?
I left home when I was 17 years old and went to Tulsa to school on the National Youth Administration by when Roosevelt had that. And so I learned to be a machinist. And so the government went and sent me to put me on a train and sent me to Rosemont, Minnesota. And that's where they ferried us all out this place here. And then so I went to New Departure Ball Bearing Factory in Bristol, Connecticut. And I was them. And of course, being 17 and going there, and after about 2 months, I got so sick that I couldn't even work. And so the old boss, he would say, "What's wrong with you? You know this like that." And I said, "Well, I tell you, I don't know, but I'm sick." And he says, "I know what you need." He said, so he went and gave me a train ticket, but that was 3,000 miles away. And he said, "Why don't you just go home for a week?" And so I did. And when I come back, why, I was all cured. And so that's all it needed. And so, but that's when I got my draft notice. And I just turned 18. And so anyway, I got the draft notice, and I thought it was going to be smart. And I said, "Well, I want to transfer this to Oklahoma. I'm back to my hometown." Okay. So there was 6 of us guys always run around together, you know. And so we, anyway, I said, "Well, that's really neat. I can go with them." Well, we went down to Tulsa and got the induction, and then went all into Fort Sill, where they separated us out to different spots. And it was sort of a funny, different than I was ever. They lined us all up. Okay, and went down the line. Okay, Army, Navy, fair, and after everything, and I happened to be Air Force on the number, see? And so that's when they shepherded me, and they sent me to Shepherd Field, which is down in Wichita Falls, and for basic training and everything like that. And so, but after about 9 weeks, well, then they separated us out and said, I don't know. When I went to Fort Wayne, Indiana. I went to Sedalia, Missouri. I went to Alliance, Nebraska, and then I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So all the time you was getting training on the gliders and everything else, and so when we got to went to 10 days. Oh, from Fort Bragg, they sent us to Camp Shanks, New York. We got on a boat, got on the Louis Pasteur, which is a luxury liner, which belonged to the French and so the English took it over. And so I forget how many thousand people was it, but it was really loaded. Anyway, and got on that, and after about 14 days, we landed in Liverpool, marched down through town, and then they placed us, and we landed in Nottingham. And so, of course, natural, young guys and everything else, saying, where's the, in Sherwood's Forest? He said, where's all the guys? There was no guys there. Well, anyway, but that was turned out pretty good. But then I forget where the heck we went. We was down to Nottingham, and then we was I can't remember the towns in between, but we was in 2 or 3 bases there, and so we got, and then we finally wound up down in Exeter, England, down on the coast, and that's where we did most of all of our problems and everything else, and solved them out. But we didn't know where we was going to go, and of course nobody was saying anything, and we was doing all this work, at night, and then got near all the gliders in good shape, because there was 12 of us guys in the squad, and each one of us got 6 gliders, and we had to take care of. And so on mine, I wrote on the side of it, Hitler's Revenge, but I spelled Hitler wrong. It was Hitler, Hitler's Revenge. And so anyway, that old glider, I'm telling you, it held up, and it made 6 missions, because every time we put it out, it'd come back with full of bullet holes. And we spent 2 or 3 hours of patching up all the holes and everything. As soon as we got all the holes fixed, by then they'd take it out and they'd try to see how many of them come off. When it's flat, if it didn't come off, well, it's ready for combat. And so, but no, and I don't know. We got, I forget what the name of the place was in Le Mans, I guess. We were stationed there for a while. We didn't stay very long at any place. They was moving us all the time, and so we found we went to Orleans, France, and that's where we stayed and done most of all of our training. And so, but that was quite a story there, because the town and everything else everybody was friendly to us. Oh my Lord. And I think that's when they signed the armistice. And so they danced in the street for 3 days. And then, of course, how much dad blamed beer and booze can you drink? And so they were really treating us great, boy, I'm telling you. And so, but anyway, that was funny. They had a carnival right downtown, and the war was going on, but the carnival was running right open. They had the Ferris wheel, they had everything like that, and so they did anything in the world that they could so that they could receive some of that American money. and so, but anyway, somebody went and gave me a 30 caliber rifle that had a breakover stock. That was what the paratroopers packed, And so I run out of money, so I sold it to a Frenchman for $60, and now it would probably bring 1,000. And so, but well, it's being stupid and young.
Well, you were young at this time. What was the mood and the spirit of the boys that were all together working on these planes?
Well, I don't know. We just talked about everything and everything else, and everybody seemed to enjoy themselves. It wasn't as if we was going to get killed or anything like that. But
was the dynamic the same? So one of the questions somebody had submitted was, how was the interaction with that, and then with the pilots?
We was on good terms with the pilots, and so, but I have to be lucky with the glider pilot that mine was with, and he was I went to high school with him down in Normandy, Oklahoma. So he was the glider pilot, and so every chance I got to fly with him whenever we was training, see, and I learned quite a bit about the gliders. and he would let me co-pilot. I'd fly that thing too, but I had to. Well, there's no way in the world that I could be the pilot, so they had me. Said, well, we're gonna, and I told them after we had them planes and everything else, and we had to fly in them because the pilots wouldn't fly after we fixed it unless we went with them, because he says if you haven't got brains enough or guts enough to fly in this, we ain't either. And so we went to the commander about that and said, hey, this is wrong. We need more money. So they doubled our pay. They gave us half pay, half flying pay to go with the, and of course it's being me mouthy as I was in my younger days. And so, but no, it turned out great. And so I had a big paycheck every month of $99. And so you start out with 50, and then it ends up to 55. And then when you, with the corporal, you got 66. And so 78 for sergeant. But no, I hate to tell this, but I only got busted about 3 times. Every time I come up for promotion, I was back to corporal again. So, and somebody says, well, why in the hell don't you straighten up? Says, I don't know, being smart like that. I said, who cares? I'm not going to be in here forever anyway. And so I remember some of the deals that I got into, but anyway, it was a real nice duty, because we, in the meantime, while we were stationed in Orleans, we had to pull guard duty once a month. And so to guard all the C-47s that were parked on the runway. So, but we were thieves. That's what we were, because when they told us and that the warrant officer left us with the planes, that was okay. That meant to grab a bag and take all the sea rations that you could get. and them K ranches would kill you, man. I'm telling you, everything was so damn hard you couldn't eat it. And so we would swipe the food, all the hash and this and that and the cheeses and everything else. And so the pilots began to bitch, complain. They said, we're losing food. And of course, being me, what are you doing on the ground? Or was you guarding the planes, or what was you doing? And I said, well, this is money, this food situation. I don't know a thing about that. But I'm telling you, we ate great. So, but anyway.
Well, switching gears a little bit, the reclamation, so the snatch. So this is, anyone that comes across the pictures of seeing this wire, and then you're like, they even talk about it. Any pilot that I've run into that's seen it or even had a brief discussion is pretty amazed by the whole process.
Yeah.
Is there any thing you'd like to talk about with things that you experienced, or a memorable story with regard to a snatch?
Well, when I was working part with the ground crew, and we had about 20-foot steel mats that we put in front of the tires on the thing and on the glider. And so they never did go on about 20 feet, and then it's up in the air, see, because that rope was a nylon rope, and it stretched 1/3 its length. So it was just like a rubber band, the plane would hit it, and here it would go underneath and stretch her all out, and then here we go up. And I don't know, I made several rides up, and I enjoyed them.
Well, it already appears that you are kind of a wild one here, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
How many snatches were you involved with?
Probably half a dozen or so. But
that you hooked up as well, or that's half a dozen riding?
Well, on D-Day, my job was to hook the tote open, and then of course at that time they'd advanced with and had a for telephone phone and everything else.
Right.
The pilot could talk to the glider, and so you had to hook that thing up, hook the wires up and everything else, then hook it up to the plane. And so that was my job there on D-Day. And so, but I didn't go across the channel that day. I think about 3 or 4 days. Soon as the CBs went in and scraped off a flat place so they could land, see? And then we went in then, and then we set up Tent City there. When we was in, I don't know what we must have been in about 4 or 5 miles or something like that, because, and anyway, we went through the rainy part of the thing, and so we set a tent up, but we had to dig a ditch about 1 foot deep all the way around the tent, so to keep the water out. And that was amazing.
And what was the mood during that time? So you're
Well, we kept, I think there was 4 of us to one of those tents. And so, but I don't know, I didn't have any trouble with them. Everybody got along, and everybody knew what their job was. And so, but you always have to have somebody that's had no business being there, I guess. I don't know.
Well, for the crowd, I'm going to open it up because I have questions, but I also have access to you for the rest of the day. The questions from the crowd. Is there any question before I have a closing question for Curtis?
Yes.
Undo your video.
Oh, wait. Where is that? Okay. Yes, I have a couple of questions. Mr. Cameron, did you ever use the load adjuster when you were loading the gliders?
No, we didn't have any weight thing. We knew what each thing weighed, and so we just guessed at it because you couldn't go over 4,000 pounds in the glider, because
Okay.
we had a load transform of 10 foot and 10, 20 feet, with hardwood boards in it. And we knew, they knew the weight of all the projects, like the 75 millimeter cannons and the ammunition. We knew how much that was. We knew how much the Jeep weighed with 4 or 6 guys in it, and knew how much a weapons carrier and a D4 Caterpillar, we knew how heavy it was. And everything was, by guess, and by gosh.
I wonder, there's a lot of really clean load adjusters out there, so I didn't know that they ever got used.
Yeah.
So another question I have is, did the townspeople come out and watch the glider snatches in France and Germany?
No, the people weren't, the French people, they weren't out in the open, because the only time we ever associated with them is when we liberated a city or something like that. Otherwise, they stayed home. And so, of course, they had what you call the free people, and most of them, every time they had a landing on a plane or something like that, that's when they come out to, if the plane that went down in a crash or something like that, they went out and helped them, and then they went and took them home and hid them. See?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you have to know the manufacturer of the glider if you were replacing parts?
No, I think that most of them was universal, because they're made out by so many companies like International Tractors and Ford Motor Company, and then we had I forget what company it was down in Stuttgart, Arkansas. So, but anyway, no, they was all pretty well. All of them was pretty well the same. had to go by, you know, statistics and everything else on how to do them. And so, but we didn't have to learn. It didn't make any difference to us what plane or factory made the part, but everything fit. See?
Okay. Yeah, we were told that with the exception of the Ford company, that most of the gliders, they were sent in 5 boxes with serial numbers, and they had to figure out if they got mixed up, they had to put all the serials back together in order to put it together from other manufacturers that weren't Ford. Ford was the only one because it was on an assembly line, so they could be interchangeable, but the others were made by hand. And like when they put the wings on, if it wasn't the right serial, it may not fit.
Yeah, well, I don't think we paid any attention to the.
It's good to know. You probably filled in.
There with a box in, I mean, parts and stuff like that. You never had time to mess around, and it would probably took weeks to trace apart and see who put it out or anything. But the boxes were for the wings and everything else, and everything come in a box, you know, on the glider. Fuselage, you know, was long. It was 48 feet, that fuselage in that box. And then I think the tail part was, they had this fabric on it, was on it, but I think he said it was up about 12 feet. And the wingspan had to be, it must have been over about 40 feet. Those wings were, because the wingspan on the Waco glider was 48 feet. And
About 85.
yeah.
You're doing the math in public there.
Yeah. 40. No, but the fuselage and everything else was but that was it. That was the only thing. And then, of course, we took the boxes and put them together and made a little town, and everybody had a hut then. We didn't have no tents anymore, see.
That was nice.
Everything came out great. So,
Well, thank you very much.
but anyway, well, it's like anything else. You buy a toy and 2 toys, you don't know whether all them parts come from one thing or not, too. But it was safe. So, but anyway, no, we were sort of hungry guys, you know. So the boss would come by and he'd say, now these planes, they gotta go. And he says, I don't want you taking the chocks off of them. You know that we had the wings so they couldn't fly and stuff like that. So as soon as they left, we pulled everything off of it, thrown it in the big glider. And so we knew how fast you had to go with that there in order to get it off the ground. It was 35 miles an hour. So we get a Jeep and tie on the front end of that. So we practiced flying the gliders down the runway at 2 feet and at 35 miles an hour. So that we got quite a bit of experience that way. So anyway.
You guys are like a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah, it actually, we were. I think the oldest ones we had a couple of, they had 2 people on there that was 38 years old. And one of them we called Gramps and the other was Grumpy. And so I'll never will forget him. This one, he was D.A. Jones was his name. He lived down at Fairfax, Oklahoma. But, you know, well, honored as we was, when we were stationed in Alliance now, I don't know whether you want to hear this or not. Anyway, one of our sergeant, he went and had him a girlfriend, and her name was Ivy. So this song come out, you know, Kennedy Ivy too, why didn't you? I guess I shouldn't say that. But anyway, no, it was really interesting, and so. But
sounds like you had a great group of
guys,
young men that were
So-
doing the mission.
So to finish that story, I told I was Raymond Wills, and I said, hey, when I go home, I'll never work another day. And if you don't pay me to do this, I'm going to tell your wife what the hell you've been doing. And so when I come home, I looked up there and he moved. Is Tyler, Texas, and try to find him in Tyler. Oh, hell, he moved somewhere else. So, you know,
Well,
on things that, you know.
Well, it up and we can get it answered later.
Sorry, your connection cut out a little bit. Could you say that again?
Is there any? We have time for one more quick question from crowd. Otherwise, we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have a closing question, and then we're gonna have to wrap this one up.
I do have a quick question. Sir, as a glider mechanic, did you ever have any experience with the German equivalent, the Gotha 242 glider? I came across an article on some TCC mechanics that were tasked with restoring one during the war to try to analyze it. Were you ever familiar with the Luftwaffe's glider program?
No, I don't think we had anything to do with that in my troop group and the 440th group. But I don't know. The only thing that we did, we went down to Bournemouth, England, down at the coast, and we helped do the mechanic work on the Horses glider, which is like a great big cigar with wings. Hell, 30 people.
That's big glider.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you. Well, here's the last one, the last quick one. There's a lot of, we're recording this, and you've already engaged the young folks that are around. I'm not even young in the young category anymore. Is there anything you would like to leave to this next generation of glider pilots, maintainers, etc.?
Well, I'm glad they did away with the Glider Pilot Association, because as soon as the war was over, that was busted up, and the gliders were all burned, most overseas. And so that's the reason they sent me down to Kassel, Germany, to be trained to go to Japan as an aerial material parts person. And so that's when they went and showed me. And so, but I did finish up with 2 presidential citations, and I had 1 silver combat star and 2 bronze. And then all the other citations we got. But it was, I don't know. I got home, I went in at 18 and come out at 22.
Wow.
22, and as a dummy, I didn't know nothing. I got a job for $70, 70 cents an hour. That's the only thing you could find. So,
Well, I think you I think you learned some things about life in a lot of categories. You're educated in a different way than just school.
Yeah. I went to Ames College, and I spent quite a bit of time on electrical stuff, so that I could wire up a car, or I could, hook up a trailer or anything. See,
There you go.
and then just subject like that, and then in order to get so I could be real good. In fact, I was so damn good. They drove 200 miles to down where I was working to get me to come to go work for them and troubleshoot their product. And so, but we learned on automatic transmission and stuff by going to the junkyard and buying automatic transmissions, and you going by the book and repairing them and selling them. See, and so so that helped.
Well, I think I'd say some of that honoriness and some of the determination. For those in the crowd, we got to spend time with, I'm saying Curtis, with Mr. Cameron last night at dinner, and we just learned about how involved he still is in his community, with the VFW, with
America. I'm life members in both places, Legion and American Legion. I was trustee for 17 years down there for the VFW. And so,
And he's still a lead member with the Honor Guard. So he is still a tremendous, well, you've kind of tried to humble yourself and be a little bit self-deprecating here. I think we all know better, and we kind of see the person and the kind of work that you've done for our country, both abroad and here.
well, I don't know what but I was as on the, well, you know, like they have the favored persons or something on Channel 9.
You made TV.
I made TV for a week on that, and then then I happened to be the Grand Marshal in the 4th of July parade, and then
Well, right now we're going to be the infamous couple that hosed the timing up. They're going to give me all kinds of grief later on the schedule. So I do have to say thank you, because we have to get over to the club, sir.
well, hell, I could talk to you all day.
Well, sir, on behalf of the World War II Glider Pilot Committee and Lieutenant Colonel Humphrey, you met him briefly last night.
Yeah.
He's the current 94th Flying Training Squadron Commander. He couldn't be here because he had a last-minute opportunity to visit family abroad. Thank you for making the trip to the Academy today.
Well,
For educating and motivating the cadets, officers, and enlisted members, and truly enhancing the symposium.